Have you ever had one of those weeks where you thought, I was doing so much better, so why do I suddenly feel worse again? Maybe your energy was improving. Your sleep was finally getting better. You were sleeping through the night. Your pain started to ease. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, everything felt like it went backwards. If you've experienced that, you are not alone. In fact, it's one of the most common practices I hear in my practice. People ask me, did I do something wrong? Am I back to square one? Today, I want to reassure you that healing never happens in a straight line. In many cases, what feels like a setback isn't failure at all. It's your body continuing to adapt. Welcome back to the Healing Continuum. In this series, we're exploring how symptoms are not isolated problems to eliminate. They're messages to help us understand the state of our entire system. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest misconceptions in health, the belief that healing should always move forward in a straight line. Hi, I'm Dr. Jodi Medell. I am a doctor of physical therapy and a functional medicine practitioner, putting together integrative health. I'm the founder of the Healing Continuum and the Healing Continuum method. I work primarily with active adults and women in midlife who feel like their bodies have suddenly changed and their bodies no longer make sense to them. Together, we look at three interconnected foundations: structure, function, and the nervous system. Because when we understand how those systems interact together, our symptoms begin making much more sense. Again, our bodies do not work in isolated systems. It's the interconnectedness of the three systems I just mentioned: structure, physiology, and the nervous system that we need to look at and understand. So, I think we have an expectation, and we've been taught to believe that healing works like climbing a little staircase. Each day gets a little bit better. Each week we feel a little bit stronger. Each month we make steady progress, and that sounds wonderful and great, but usually that is not how it works. Our bodies are not machines. They're living, adapting systems. And living systems don't heal perfectly in a straight line. Let me tell you about a woman I worked with. She was incredibly active. She had always relied on discipline. If something wasn't working, she'd simply work harder. When we began working together, she started sleeping better. Her digestion improved. Her energy began returning. Then about 1 month later, she had several difficult days. She panicked. She assumed she had undone all of her progress, that she was going in reverse. But when we stepped back and looked at the bigger picture, something interesting happened. Those few difficult days were surrounded by weeks that were significantly better than where she started. Her body wasn't moving backwards, it was learning. Healing had become a series of waves instead of a straight line. Back in the 90s, when I was studying exercise physiology, we, when training athletes, worked with what was called the periodization principle. And this is what I teach to most of my patients as I apply it to healing as well. When we're training as an athlete for a specific event, we train hard, but then we have to plateau for a while, a week, so that our body can recover from the push and build a bigger foundation, a bigger base, so that we can push again. And so we push again, and then again we hit that plateau. We plan for it so that on that peak performance day, the day where we need to be on, our bodies are adapted, well rested, and ready to go for that main event. That's exactly the same idea with healing. When we're healing, we're putting a lot of energy into that recovery or that change or whatever it is that we're working on, but then we have to step back and let it happen. without any more pushing. Let it be, and then we can push again. So it's not really a linear, straight up progress. It kind of ebbs and flows. And why does this happen? It's because our body is constantly responding to changing circumstances. We're dealing with sleep, stress, nutrition, hormones, movement, life events, travel, illness, relationships. All of these things influence your physiology. So some days your body simply has more resources available, and some days it doesn't. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you are human. You know, the nervous system is a key player in all of this. And the nervous system doesn't suddenly decide everything is safe. We talked about this in some previous episodes, that when we're living in a high energy, sympathetic nervous system overdrive state, our body's in fight or flight mode, and so it becomes more protective. So safety is learned through repeated experiences. If you've lived in chronic stress for years, your nervous system won't completely change in a week just because you made that conscious decision to slow down, recover, rest, repair. Your nervous system needs a little bit more time to agree that, okay, we are on board with this. We are in this new steady state. So it begins collecting evidence. I slept well. I recovered after exercise. I handled that stressful conversation. I rested without feeling guilty. Little by little, the nervous system starts believing that it no longer has to stay on constant alert. That's progress. And that is a process. That's not an event. And this is where I see so many people become discouraged. They have one poor night's sleep, and suddenly they believe that they're back where they started. They have one migraine, one stressful week, one flare of pain, and they conclude that nothing is working. But let's put it into perspective. Imagine teaching a child to ride a bicycle. If they wobble once, would you say they've forgotten how to ride? Of course not. Healing works much the same way. Progress includes wobbling. We'll be wobbling a lot, and that's good. When your symptoms return, I encourage people to become curious instead of critical. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me, try asking, what changed? How have I been sleeping? How have I been eating? What's my stress level like right now? Have I been allowing my body to recover? Have I been listening to my body? Symptoms often become valuable information rather than evidence of failure. Again, the body is always adapting, always communicating, always trying to keep us alive. Sometimes healing means rebuilding capacity. Sometimes it's learning to regulate the nervous system. Sometimes it means creating better movement patterns. And sometimes it means improving nutrition. Also, sometimes it means simply allowing rest and recovery. No pushing. All of those are healing. So, if you're feeling discouraged because your progress hasn't been perfectly linear, I hope you'll remember this. Healing isn't about never having another difficult day. It's about gradually increasing your body's ability to recover from those difficult days. That's resilience. And resilience can be built. Your body isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to keep listening. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to have you join me by subscribing to this channel. Each week, we explore how structure, physiology, and the nervous system work together to influence health, recovery, and healing. And if you know someone who's feeling discouraged because they think they're going backwards, please share this video with them. Remember, your body is always communicating. The question isn't whether it's speaking. The question is whether we've learned how to listen. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Bye.